Do you guys have an ideal TV spot where you guys want to see him?
I'd like him NBC or Fox.
The only thing that comes to mind is Al Michaels needs to retire, and they've already said he's coming back for next season. I'm pretty sure he's like flirting the line with dementia.
This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not.
Welcome back to the Warner Brothers podcast. I'm Kyle, joined by my brother Keenan, joined by Timmy G. Fellas, what's up?
Feels good. Haven't seen a playoff victory since Tom Brady. It feels good. It feels real good.
Kind of an ugly one, but you got one. So.
Listen, I don't. The style points for me, I don't care in the playoffs.
It was a tough matchup. Chargers defense is legit. They have some pieces there.
Drake first half, you could tell it was his first playoff game, a little jittery. That's fine. Missed a couple throws that he makes, and then second half cleaned it up, 11-14, touchdown, 174 yards. Ran well in the first half too. I really like the way that he ran, but we'll talk more about that game coming up. I'm just happy. The Patriots are one win away from the annual Patriot Bowl that I love to see.
Yeah, it felt great to have a home playoff game back in Gillette. I mean, listen, out of 6 games, we had 4 absolute bangers, one pretty good game with the Patriots and Chargers, and then an entertaining blowout, at least, with the Texans and Steelers.
It was a late blowout, and so it was just interesting how it happened.
AKA the Mike Tomlin Memorial Game.
Mm-hmm.
Transition right into that. Mike Tomlin is now out of a job. Keenan, 2 weeks ago, you said that possibly all 4 of the coaches in the AFC North could be out of a job. 3 of them are. Mike Tomlin steps down.
And I could argue the 4th one probably could and should be, in my personal
low-key,
opinion,
the most deserving one to be let go. If anybody would have put money on it preseason, I think they would have said, okay, probably Stefanski. But we can understand this season being a shit show for them. But then right behind him would have been Zach Taylor. And he's
the worst coach, inarguably, out of all 4 coaches. Inarguably worse than Stefanski.
You think it's inarguable that?
To me, I guess it'd be him and Stefanski would be your argument, but I would take Stefanski over Taylor. But
Taylor's
and then
at least
obviously
been to a Super Bowl.
And then you're obviously taking Harbaugh, and you're taking Harbaugh and you're taking Tomlin over them. That's obvious. So if you want to say Stefanski, sure. I mean, Stefanski's a 2-time coach of the year. He's done, and I think he's done more with less. In my personal opinion,
I'd agree with that.
So I would say. So if you want to say, and if you don't want to say inarguably, and you can have that argument, sure. But you could argue he is the 4th worst coach in that was. Because right now he's the best coach in the division because the division doesn't have a coach. So
wow.
He's inarguably the best coach in that division right now. But let's talk Tomlin.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin, the news comes down that he steps down pretty quickly after the loss. I'd say probably 14 hours after the loss, if not less.
Yes.
What was your immediate thoughts? Where do you see this going? And what would you like to see Mike Tomlin do? Not what do you think he's going to do? What would you like to see Mike Tomlin do? Let's say in the next 2 years. Let's give him this season and next.
So my immediate thoughts were, oh, wow, he stepped down, which means that it felt like the Bill Belichick thing of where the organization and him were kind of I think we need to part ways. You've been a trusted, respectful person in this organization for such a long period of time that we're going to let it word that you are the person who stepped down from this and it was your decision kind of thing, where it's kind of just, not that he was fired, but he wanted to just step away. But it felt like a mutual decision between each rather than him just saying, I'm stepping back, and the Steelers were blindsided by it. So my first thoughts were, I thought that this could happen, and I was and it made sense to me as to why. My going forward with it, what do I think happens over the next 2 years with Tomlin? I think he goes into television, and I don't know if he comes. It depends on what kind of jobs are there. I think he can be very choosy with his jobs, and I don't think he's coming back for anything less than the ideal situation. So maybe like I don't know if he comes back in division, but like obviously the Ravens is open now. What if the Bengals open? Like if he has like a quarterback like that plus a situation, maybe, but I don't even know. I think he's going to be choosy with the next time he steps into coaching. And what do I want him to do? I want him to take a year off, sit, readjust. I don't think you could argue the Ravens one, but I think that's also almost a weird transit, but I think he'd do great there. But other than that, I don't think there's a great job.
What team
I think there's some.
What team would you like to see him coach?
I would like to, at the moment, like out of the teams with vacancies, or just any coaching.
What would you like to see? Like, if let's say he does take 2 years off, what would be your ideal type of destination? Doesn't have to be exactly a team, but like, what type of destination would you like to see him at?
A team that has talent that needs like everything to come together. So like, I think even though a situation that's different, like it's tough, like the Cowboys, he would do great with. And it'd also be cinema having him and Jerry Jones. But like, that's a team that has talent that seems to not always have the camaraderie together. It's like, I mean, it's Dallas, so there's always hoopla around it. And he's obviously been in Pittsburgh, and obviously they're a storied franchise, so the storied franchise wouldn't bother him. It's Mike Tomlin. Everybody loves Mike Tomlin. So a situation like that would be really interesting. So something along those lines would be a situation that you would like him in there, or this is just a hypothetical, obviously. Say the Bills get beat this weekend and then next year they lose in the first round. Sean McDermott goes and it's like, okay, Mike Tomlin, you are a defensive guy, get that defense better. You have Josh Allen. You don't even have to worry about the offense, because that's really been the one question mark around Tomlin lately, has been like the offense isn't really getting going. So something like where you have an established guy and you just need to continue to up the culture would be the best thing for Tomlin. I mean, he could do whatever he wants because he's great, but that would be the ideal situation for me.
Tim, same question to you. Reaction immediately to Tomlin, and then what would you like to see him do over the course of 1 or 2 seasons?
I was definitely a little shocked. I think I expected it to go this way. Like, I didn't expect him to be fired. There were so many posts that were like, is this his last game coaching? Is he going to be fired? And I was like, he's not going to be fired. They literally just extended him last offseason. If one more playoff trip and loss was like going to end his job, they wouldn't have given him that extension. So I was pretty confident that if he was to leave, it would be him stepping down, a mutual decision to part ways. I honestly don't think he comes back. I think he retires and just doesn't coach anymore. I think
the Bill Cowher.
When you're a coach for so long in one place, I just feel like it would be a really weird experience for him to go somewhere else and try to like do it again. Similar with like Bill Belichick. I don't know if I think Bill Belichick's coming back. Maybe he just does his thing in North Carolina and he's already 89,000 years old or whatever, so he just calls it a career after that. Obviously, Tomlin's only like 50-something, so he could easily still coach another like 20 years in the NFL, but I could totally see him just not coming back. If he did come back, I would like him to go to any team that has an opening that has the worst defense in the league, because he's going to coach them up and they're going to immediately be a top 20 unit, and they're going to draft really well. They're going to scout really well. They're going to sign free agents really well. That's like exactly what Tomlin's known for, is the defensive side. So if he were to like, he's already said he's not coming back this year, but say he did, Arizona would be great. They have like no talent. 1 or 2 years, that defense would be like right in the middle of the pack, and the offense has some young pieces. So, they could easily work with that. But yeah.
I'm throwing everybody at Atlanta. If you got Mike McDaniels an OC and then him as a head coach in Atlanta, that would just be
Harbaugh head coach, Tomlin defensive coordinator, McDaniels offensive coordinator, full staff. They're like, fuck it, let's just go get one.
They go co-head coach.
Have an all-time, and then basically just say, hey guys, we're gonna go trade for X. Like, we're gonna do whatever it takes to get Burrow. just have a day.
That would be insane.
That would be insane. I'd love it.
Quick question before I respond. Do you guys have an ideal TV spot where you guys want to see him?
I'd like him NBC or Fox.
The only thing that comes to mind is Al Michaels needs to retire, and they've already said he's coming back for next season. I'm pretty sure he's like flirting the line with dementia. There's been multiple games where he said something, and I was just like, none of that information is correct. Like when they were playing the Giants on Thursday Night Football, he said 2 times that Saquon Barkley was traded from the Giants to the Eagles. And I was like, in no world would that ever occur. So you could just eliminate that fact from your brain. But he doubled down on it. So, and then obviously there's been the Tampa Bay game, Tampa Bay Falcons. They kick a game-winning field goal, and his reaction, no joke, was just like, and the kick is, yep, Atlanta's going to win the football game. And that was it. And it was like, you just kicked a game winner after coming back from down like 18 in the fourth quarter, and you're just talking to me. Then he did it again with Seattle and in LA. Puka scores the overtime touchdown, and he's like, oh, and Puka's going to walk in for a touchdown. Like, that could be a game-winning touchdown. Why are we not calling it like it is one?
Yeah.
So he could easily just step in there and replace him.
I think having a new, and I mean, Kirk is fine, but like a new Amazon Prime would be cool. So Tomlin on there, but I also think I would like Tomlin in a halftime, in a post game, and a pregame. I think I'd like him more than a color commentator, in my personal opinion.
Just
not that I think he can do both.
Let him
like,
take over for Richard Sherman. I get really tired of hearing Richard Sherman on halftime shows, to be completely honest with you. He'll say like the most like obvious things ever. Like a defense would be playing like ass, and he's like, this defense has to square it up and straighten out in the second half. It's like, no shit. Everybody knows that. They got to play better in the second half. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. I think probably going to like an Amazon Prime and being the Thursday night like halftime, and I think that'd be great for him.
You guys are gonna get me on another tangent because like I hate halftime shows and post game shows unless they're great. Because Tim's right about Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman's not necessarily bad, but the NFL and NBA, not as much the NBA anymore, but the NFL loves doing this where they'll be like, oh, we'll take a guy who was great in interviews and sound bites and we'll put him on TV. And that doesn't always translate. Like actually like Devin McCourty's pretty good on TV, but you wouldn't pin him for a guy who was like great in interviews or had a wild personality.
Garrett's fine.
Yeah, Garrett's like, most people hate Jason Garrett. I actually think he's okay in the booth.
I'm not a fan of Garrett.
I actually think Jason Garrett was okay in the booth. I think it was either one of the holiday games. Maybe it was Thanksgiving. But in studio, yeah, Garrett doesn't really say much. But
fine, there's whatever.
But NBC, but this is a problem in the NBA and NFL. You got like, in NBC's case, you got like 15 personalities there. But Amazon, Fox, CBS, same thing with the NBA. You'll have 6 dudes and a girl or 6, whatever. You'll have 6 people on a desk trying to get one opinion in within, I don't know, a 6-minute span before you got to go to commercial. That's impossible. Mm-hmm. Keep it to like 2 or 3 or 4 and, have a conversation that flows. And it's crazy how many studios get that wrong.
Yeah, there's 3 to 4. Like 4 is max. And when you have 4, you need an Ernie Johnson who is so sound at his job that if Kenny, Shaq, and Chuck are going off the rails, he can reel them back in quickly. Like obviously he understands when to let them go and then when to not let them go. Because like those are 3, especially obviously Shaq and Charles. Like those are 2 immense personalities, and then you have Kenny, who's also a strong personality as well, and reeling that in. So like you need a guy like that if you're going to do that. If not, like NBC's doing well when they have T-Mac. They have T-Mac, Mello, somebody else, depending on who they filter in. DC, but like that's good because those guys understand and like they each bring like different points to it. So and when you said Garrett's actually fine in the booth as a color commentator, it made me think of Chris Webber because Chris Webber as an analyst was actually solid. Chris Webber as a color commentator wasn't good.
Yeah, Chris Webber was legitimately good, like on Inside the NBA. If he was replacing one of those guys in studio,
100%.
He was well spoken. got his point across, would tell great stories because you have the room to do that on like TNT. And then in
Yeah.
the booth, like just awkward, which is fine because it's not for everybody. Like even like Grant Hill, he's pretty good now. I thought Grant Hill was pretty awful when he started. Tom Brady's
100%.
working through the kinks. Chris Webber never got good at it. Like the one memory I have, Keenan, I think I've mentioned this on here. I don't remember if I was watching this game with you or someone else. I'll never forget it.
You were with me.
Kevin Durant went up for a layup, like just a regular right-handed layup. And he's like, Kevin Durant with the sky hook. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll just watch this game on you. Like maybe I'll just not watch TNT basketball. And that's the kind of stuff you'd get like year in and year out from Chris Webber.
So, and then when you have that mixed with, when it was him, it was Harlan, Reggie, and that, I was like, it would feed off each other.
Like,
and I know a lot of people
here?
don't like Reggie. And that's also how I felt. Sorry, this is a way sidebar, and we'll get back to it. But the last thing I'm going to say on it, then we'll get back. We'll steer the shit back. But when Snoop was on the cast, he was funny, but like I was like, wait a second, we're trying to talk about
Snoop. Listen, yo, are you talking about when he did the Golden State thing the other day? He did. I watched him do I think a pregame interview with Steph Curry. Yes. And it was like legitimately good, like great questions, thoughtful questions. I'm like, this is better than 99% of the people that do the pre and post game and sideline interviews, which again, we don't need that. I would say 97% of the sports media shit. That's like, run of the mill stuff. We need this. We need the sideline reports, the halftime reports. We don't need it. 97% of it. Back to Mike Tomlin though. I was pretty surprised, less surprised because I guess I actually thought he was going to come back next year. But over the weekend before the game, listening to pregame stuff, there are some people saying he's been burnt out of the Steelers job and that if they were to lose that, they think he'd step down. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So Tuesday comes and that's exactly what happens. Another quibble actually after we get through this with the NFL scheduling. But so I was kind of surprised, like even though I'd heard people in the NFL say it, I guess like on Friday when I was listening to these podcasts or whatever, still surprising to see because I mean, he's been coaching them forever. We talk about longevity with people like LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant in the NBA. That's been Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's been Mike Tomlin with a winning record with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So very impressive. We talk about how hard it is to win in the NFL. We talk about coaches all the time, how I value even average coaches in the NFL because I think it's hard to be average in the NFL, truly. What do I think he's going to do? What would I like to see him do? I would love to have seen him take this Falcons job. I think, talk about average. You get a slightly above average coach or a coach that at least knows what he's doing in Atlanta. I think that's instantly a division winner over there next year. Obviously depends on what the other three teams do, but Atlanta's got so much talent. If you brought in Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh, which is possible, he interviewed with them, I think either today or yesterday. I mean, why not? Why not? I mean, they could be technically instantly a contender given what you'd have to do to win that division, which as of the last, 5-6 years, seems like not much.
Get to 11 wins, you guarantee the division.
Right? Get to 10 wins, you guarantee the division, damn near.
Yeah, I was going to say 10 wins, you're guaranteed to be like right there in the mix depending on Tampa. 11, you are booking that you're won the division regardless.
What would I like to see him do? So yes, he's going to do TV. Hopefully he's good on TV. Let's start there.
Yeah.
If there was a place I'd like to see him go in 2027, we're saying now 2027 regular season, if I'm forecasting what jobs will be available, you assume the Giants get it right this year, which is not a safe assumption. It would be, I would think if the Jets are bad this year, that job will be open. God, let me think who else, because you just never know with the Jets. AFC West is going to be locked up. AFC South, that's an iffy one. NFC West is locked up. It's tricky. It's tricky. You don't really know. Because it would seem like, Keenan, what would be available is like if like you said, the Buffalo job becomes available, or if someone burns a bridge and then it's like, okay, because that's ideally the kind of job.
Green Bay.
Something
Green Bay
like
would
that.
Be very interesting. If Green Bay,
Green Bay would be very interesting. So, I mean, I kind of already said I would love to see him coach Atlanta. That's not going to happen. A situation like that, or like Tim said, like Arizona Cardinals, I'd really like to see him take a team that's not a storied franchise like the Steelers, like the Packers, as you mentioned. I'd like to see him go to a non-blue blood, maybe someone that's kind of middle of the pack, and see what he could do there. I'd really love to see what his second act is, as far as like Andy Reid, the Kansas City Chiefs. They were always good, never great. He elevated them to greatness, obviously along with Mahomes. So I wonder if he could do something like that in his second act.
There's 3 teams that I want. Sorry, Timmy, you go.
I was just gonna say, I think if they have a bad season next year, Indy could be open. They could easily move on from Steichen. And that's kind of one of those teams. Like, they have Super Bowls, but recently they haven't really been known for being a good football team. They've kind of just been on that fringe forever. And I think he could absolutely do that, take them to a playoff team.
Yeah. Couple teams that I do want to mention real quick that I think would be interesting. I got 3 of them. The Commanders would be one if Dan Quinn doesn't work out. You have Jaden there already in place. That defense, you could elevate that defense, come in there. I think that would be a good situation. What you're talking about, Kyle.
That's I actually read that yesterday where someone said they could see that exact situation happening, and that Tomlin's from the DMV area, so that makes a lot of sense. So that would be great. I would actually love to see that. Now that you mentioned that,
yeah, I think that'd be a good situation. 1, 2 would be Philly if something happens with Sirianni and he's able to reel that team in. He's dealt with big personalities before, so like being in a big personality, like having to deal with any big personality, he's able to do it. And if he can't deal with you, then I think like no one can deal with you. If you get to that point where Mike Tomlin can't deal with you, that's that. And then the third one is actually one that's vacant now. I would like him to. I mean, you could get him there now, and I wouldn't think it'd be bad. It would actually be the Raiders, and the Raiders would be interesting because I think if you get Mendoza, who looks like he's, especially with Moore now going back to college, he's going to be the surefire number 1 pick. Good quarterback. Obviously, we need to see how great he will be, but he checks all the boxes for like what you want in a franchise guy. Speaks well, all that stuff. Athletic, can throw. Like he checks all the boxes. Not that he's Aaron Drew Luck, but like he checks what you're asking for in that. You obviously got Genty. You've got Brock Bowers.
I'm just kind of laughing at you.
I'm
just kind of laughing at you. Said he checks all the boxes, and the first box you brought up was speaks well.
Well, no, I'm just like, I mean, he checks all the boxes, and then like that was
checks all the boxes.
Like,
he looks good in a suit. He can speak at a
he
podium.
He looks the part of a franchise quarterback. He really does. Like he looks. I mean, that's a little part of it.
He kind of speaks like Kirk Cousins on cocaine. That's the vibe I get. Is cocaine Kirk when he talks.
A little bit more hype,
Kirk,
just as optimistic and just as positive as Kirk is. Yeah.
You know, like
he's very, very much an office leader type of vibe, like morning meeting office leader. I'm kidding.
Morning prayer.
And I think a guy like that, having a guy like Tomlin and Tomlin backing you is like, he's cool. It's like that one white guy around black friends. Like, he's cool. Like, guy, I promise, guys, he's fine. Like, he's Tim. Cool. So Tomlin would be that guy that's like, I sign off on this guy. Like, this guy's good. He's like, you sure? He's good. He's good. I promise. He's a little quirky, but he's good. But yes, and then obviously you got Max Crosby defensively, whether you keep that for whatever you do. But like, I think the Raiders job's actually an interesting job if you like Mendoza, because I think then you have some pieces, some staples of a roster, and now can you and the GM build it up there? And then we know that obviously they're not in Oakland, but the Raiders are still a brand. So.
I have a quick comment on Mendoza and college QBs in general before I know Tim has a question about coaching.
Yep.
It's interesting to me because I feel like, as I've mentioned on here, anytime college football is brought up, I've watched 0 seconds of college football this year, I think, unless it was on like in a friggin' like restaurant that I was in. Mendoza was not a name I heard in September and August when we were talking about quarterbacks to look out for this preseason.
Not at all.
So when I hear that he's going to be the number 1 pick now as a proxy of what happened during the year, or, whatever may have happened with other prospects, it's both encouraging and discouraging. It's encouraging because, okay, obviously he did his job. He earned the right to be in these talks to be the number 1 pick. But it's also like, all right, now we're forcing him to be the number one pick. Because I've seen that a ton of times with quarterbacks where it's like, I ain't heard anything about this guy from September through December. Now it's January, February, March, leading into the draft, leading into the combine and all that, and pro days. And now we're hearing about this guy. And I would say, like, it seemed like 7 times out of 10, those quarterbacks never worked out.
Yeah. He's getting, not exactly, but he's like, people are kind of, with how the seasons are looking, it's kind of Burrow. Is why they're talking about, like, because Burrow obviously was at Ohio State, then goes to LSU, didn't have a great first year at LSU, and then obviously had arguably the greatest collegiate season we've ever seen from an individual on a great, and obviously that team was as loaded of an offense as you're going to get in college football. When you're throwing to Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase on the outside, who you could argue are the two best pure receivers in the league, it's like, oh, he's throwing to both of them with Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield. Yeah, no, they're a great team. But so that's kind of the thought is like, oh, he popped, like he kind of just came here, he pops veteran collegiate quarterback. But you're right, Kyle. But the ones that scare me a little bit more are the ones that get brought up from January to April.
That's
The
exactly
ones
what I'm
that
talking
are
about.
like, no, yeah, I was gonna say the ones that are from September to January, I'm more confident in those guys, because that's because we saw a elevated level of play in college, and that's why you're elevated. And that's like, so it's better. I feel better about him compared to the guys like, you're right. There's a guy randomly right now, like, say, I'm just going to say a random name, like Ty Simpson right now is a guy people think maybe back half of the first round, maybe second round, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Ty Simpson's the second pick in the draft because he has a great pro day and looks good at, like, he has to throw in the wind or something. And so, like, I think it was Sam Darnold threw like incredibly in the wind or something. Like one of these quarterbacks had just like a great day, and they're like, oh, yep. That's the guy. So it just, you're right. Those ones always get me. I'm like, when did he become a thing?
Let me correct myself before we
Good stuff.
continue this conversation. You're right. Like when you bring up the situation you're talking about from January to April, I'm thinking two guys in particular that come to my mind that came out of nowhere and people really tried to big them up, and I never bought in. Excuse me, was Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky. It seemed like, I mean, granted, I wasn't all in on college football back in the day either, but I followed along more than I do now, and those two seem to come out of nowhere to where they were going to be now top 2 or 3 picks. I guess the difference with Mendoza that I'm talking about, Keenan, is more like the number 1 overall pick. It seems like there's better overall players in this draft, positional players that would go ahead of them. And now we're talking number 1 because it's the Raiders, which makes sense.
Yeah, and they need a quarterback.
So I guess maybe this is more of a Raiders
with him.
I guess this is more of a Raiders thing where if he's not, I don't know, let's say a 10-year starting quarterback for the Raiders, right? If you think this is a guy who after his first contract could end up with another team, right? Or something like a Daniel Jones situation. If you don't think this guy is a can't miss, why not trade out of the number 1 if you're the Raiders? That's kind of how I look at it. And get maybe the best positional player you can get on top of other picks. But so I guess that's where I'm at.
Timmy, I want your thoughts on Mendoza, Timmy, here in a second. I would just say that some people really feel like he is a true number 1. I just want to say that, like, so people feel like, not that he is like we need a quarterback, but people are really feeling like he is a legitimate number 1 because very strong arm, intangibles, all of that stuff. But Timmy, I like your thoughts on
real quick then before we get to Tim, real quick, you guys can both answer this. Him or Cam Ward last year, who goes number 1?
I would say him, my personal opinion.
That's really tough. I would probably say him, mainly because he has a Heisman.
Okay.
I think if you yeah, I'll let you fully talk about him, Timmy, in just a second. I'm just going to put it in the course of the last couple years. If he had been in the crop of all the quarterbacks, say everyone from Caleb's draft to now, like to what he was, I would probably say he would go 4.
I was going to say 4. I would have him behind
Jaden, Drake,
Caleb, and Drake.
Caleb.
Exactly.
So he would go
that's what I was going to say
McCarthy,
immediately was Drake May was a better prospect than Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, I would say he would go before McCarthy, before Penix, before Ward.
Okay.
So like I would have him probably at 4 there. So I think he was like in this class, legitimate number 1. Is he going to be Peyton? Calm down. Could he be Jared Goff? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And Jared Goff was a first overall pick for a reason too.
Yeah.
So There's two reasons why you didn't hear about Fernando Mendoza pre-college football season. One is plays for Indiana, who historically has been like the worst football team in college football
Ever.
of the Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
There were definitely a very small group of people that had bought in, and they said, Kurt is the real coach. They are turning around this program. They are going, because they were a good team last year.
Mhm.
They were buying in, saying that they were going to get better. He has played amazing. Like, he's been really, really good. Their schedule's been really, really easy. Like, their toughest in-season game was probably Oregon, and then Penn State right behind that. But this Penn State, I believe, was after they fired.
I think it was after
I
they
think
fired
it
Franklin.
was. And even with that game, they won on like a last-second touchdown. But either way, he has played really well. I don't think he didn't deserve his Heisman. I think he definitely deserved the Heisman.
Yeah.
If you had put any of those three QBs I named in this draft class, he wouldn't have won the Heisman, in my opinion. It's mainly because they're an undefeated team, and they are going to probably win the national championship. The second reason is because I just don't think he is an absolute locked and loaded number one overall pick, game changer, franchise changer player. I don't think he is that. I think he is Jared Goff. But I don't think I would agree with you, Kyle. I think trading away this pick and getting a haul would be smart. It would be kind of like the Bryce Young pick. I didn't think Bryce Young was a locked and loaded guy, so I really liked the move by the Bears there. The problem is they're like almost backed into a corner here where like I don't think Gino's the answer, and I don't think anybody at the Raiders organization thinks Gino's the answer. Are they able to stick it out another year with not taking a quarterback here? I don't know about that. This class is really not that good, especially with Dante Moore going back. So even
How bad do you think you'll be next year? Because next year you'll have Dante Moore, you'll have
That's
Arch,
kinda
it'll
what
be
you'll
a damn
have
good class next year. Yeah.
yes.
That's kinda what I'm
where
thinking
it's
about it.
a little.
That's where the NFL is tricky in general because you never know what injuries are going to happen to where the Raiders could. It's not likely, especially in that loaded division. You would think they come in last, but you just never know how they could fall. Um, let's say, let's say that's the thing with Geno. He's not the worst now. He obviously was one of the worst this year, but okay, he had Chip Kelly as his OC. Let's say they bring in a good OC. Let's say he at least improves in his average next year, and you're still a 6-7 win team, depending on your schedule. You could still get a good quarterback next year. You could still take a third round guy this year. I guess that's the way I always look at it when I hear,
And
oh, he's the number one pick, but he's not the best player in this draft as far as QB. I want my QB
yeah,
number ones to be Caleb Williams, Drake May, that echelon of player.
say that happens too. If they trade out of this pick, they can use that ammunition to then trade up next year and get one of these QBs, get their potential pick of the litter. Maybe they take the second one overall or whatever. Like you said, if they're a 6-win football team, they're already picking inside the top 10. So that pick alone, plus, a first round pick from a bad team, is probably going to be enough to move up 4 or 5 spots and get a guy. That is probably the smartest decision, is to trade this pick away. Problem is, whoever you hire as head coach better write into your contract, you are not allowed to fire me after this year. Like, you need to wait 2 years to fire me. If I suck after that, sure. But this year, I need to get like a pass on this year.
Yeah, I think honestly, unless you're inept, like Nat Hackett, we saw by week 4, you're like, okay, we
week
don't
1.
need him
By halftime.
Yeah, no, honestly, you're like, okay, this guy just can't run an NFL operation, and that's fine. But honestly, for all coaches and quarterbacks, I'd give them 3 years. Like, I think that you need time to build a system with it if you're a coach. Like, I just think that's so unfair. Obviously, like Gerard Mayo got let go. I think we would have given him a couple more years. But when you have Vrabel already tied to the organization, perfect. Like, it's just such a perfect situation, and he's already proven to be a very good head coach. You've got to steal that opportunity. But I just don't it's so difficult to say, hey, we fired our coach because typically we're really bad. Now I'm expecting you in 1 year to take this bad team and make them good. and like with 1 to 2 years. If not, then you're gone. Like I just think that's putting coaches at such a disadvantage. It makes it difficult on them. So if I'm a GM, which is why I think the Steelers' job is interesting, because they're 3 coaches in 55 years. I don't think you're going to fire your head coach in 2 years. So I think whatever coach goes in there understands that, hey, this team might need to be 3-14 1 or 2 times over to then get to what we need. We might need to move off of TJ Watt, because at the point when we're going to be good, like I think we could be good again, he might be out of his prime, or we might need to move off of some of these players. Like, so I just think you need to give people leeway more so as when you're in that position.
Tim, your head coaching question.
Camden sent me a post today. It was just like,
Camden.
Shout out to Camden. Shout out to Old
Shouts
Man
Camden.
Cam. It was like ESPN. I think it was ESPN. Might have been one of those pages. They were like predicting who would be the head coach for next year for all these vacant teams. I had one problem with it, and it was that typically there's a lot of openings. We got 9 now. Last time we talked vacancies, there was 7. With Harbaugh leaving, that made 7. Now we get Tomlin and McDaniels out. That makes 9. A lot of the times when we have this many, we find a lot of like first-time head coaches. They're coordinators that get moved up, or they're just random people. They might have just been in the organization. It could have been like a player personnel guy, and he just like takes over the job and does a great job. When this post was made, they literally, it looked like it was like the quickest post they could have made. They were like, quick, just jot names down. So they literally recycled like most of the coaches that have been fired this year. I don't think every coach that got fired, specifically Harbaugh, Stefanski, McDaniels, I know Tomlin said he's not coming back. Those 3, I think one of them is not going to be a coach next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Who do you guys think is most likely to not get a coaching job of one of the previously released head coaches? I just think it's a
McDaniel.
like they got,
honestly,
that's what I was thinking.
I think he'd go to coordinator.
Yeah.
Like, so if you count like as a head coaching vacancy, I would say McDaniel, because I think he goes to coordinator. I think Stefanski's almost graduated at this point out of being a coordinator. I think like he gets a head coach job before being a coordinator again, if that makes sense. And then obviously Harbaugh's not going to be a coordinator. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's too good of a head coach to, unless he said, I just want to coordinate something. Like, he's too good of a head coach.
Just put me on special teams. I'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I'll just be the special team.
Let me go back to my home special teams.
Yeah, I'll go back to the special team. But yeah, I would say McDaniel. Out of those 3 specifically, I would say
Can we rank
McDaniel.
those 3 specifically? If you had to say, we get
Harbaugh, Stefanski, McDaniel.
Okay.
Like if I'm going best to worst out of all of them, I would say
best to worst or best. Like rank them how?
You can just do how Keenan did, best to worst.
Best to worst, yeah. No, Harbaugh obviously number 1. Stefanski and Mike McDaniel, I think that's actually an argument. I would give Stefanski the nod because of his 2 coach of the years, but I don't know many coaches who could have done what Mike McDaniel did with Tua over the course of the last, 4 years, 3-4 years. So I think that's close. I think that's more of a 2A, 2B. Yeah. I did see a report probably week 17 that said if the Browns were to let Stefanski go, that Mike McDaniel would be one of their top options. I found that pretty surprising. I agree with Keenan. Out of everybody, it seems like McDaniel would be prime for, like, let's say he goes to Philly, right? Goes to Philly, kills as an OC, and then he would be in the running the next year. Because, again, Mike McDaniel was at least average. I think it's incredibly hard to be average. I think he should be one that's continuously in the head coaching cycle. This actually brings up, Tim, one of my my qualms with coaching, with the head coaching cycle. I've heard people mention this year, like, man, Josh McDaniels is killing it with the Patriots. He could get his 3rd head coaching opportunity. He was awful in Denver. He was even worse in Vegas. Why? What I would like to see.
He better be a lifetime coordinator, to be honest with you. Like he at this point, just no. No. Why would you do it?
And not only that, this is what I don't understand about the NFL, and maybe it has to do with contracts, but I would like to see more like, okay, Josh McDaniel killed it. why can't we see Josh McDaniel in Philly? Like, we should be talking about who can Philly pry from another organization for an OC, or, same thing with Dallas with the
100%.
DC. Why can't Dallas go get, Brian
Flores.
Robert
correct.
Saleh.
Robert Saleh, yeah. Like, maybe you can't contractually, maybe you can't just do that, because obviously you can't really do that with a head coach. You'd have to trade. Maybe you'd have to trade draft picks for coordinators too. But man, like Robert Saleh, we just saw it with the Jets. He shouldn't be a head coach, at least for another 2 or 3 years, I would say. Right? He doesn't, like, I've heard way too many people, in my opinion, say over the last couple of weeks, like, yeah, Saleh could be a real candidate after the season's over. Like, why?
I was going to bring up that exact point. Was this article had posted saying that he was going to get the job in Vegas. He was taking over a much better defense in New York, and that was a shit show for those 2 years there. And yeah, it's New York, they're cursed. It could just be like any coach does that. You're taking over a much worse defense, and yes, the 49ers defense was a lot better than we expected this year, but it still wasn't good. It's still not like a top 10 defense. It's not even like top 15. There's a reason why they're not favored to win this weekend. They're like the least favorite, I think, of the NFC teams to go. So
yeah, they're out of everyone. I mean, Rams are -3.5. They're -7. Or the Seahawks are -7.
Yeah.
Like, they're a touchdown favorite, and you maybe even get at 7.5 at some places. Like,
yeah.
And I'm with you guys on that. Like, the only time I would take Saleh at this point, I wouldn't. This isn't even my first candidate for it. I'm just saying, like, I would only take him in a place like the Ravens, and I say that because you have to coach not just the defense. You need to coach the offense. You need to coach the special team. You are the coach of the entire operation. So if I had him in there, I'd want my offense already settled. So, like, I don't need to get a good OC. So say you get McDaniel and Saleh. Like, that would be, okay, McDaniel, you take care of the offense. Saleh, you are over-focused on the defense. Clearly, you have the operator, but like, you're focused on the defense. And then I'm okay with it. But Vegas, that needs like a whole retool, they need a Tomlin. They need a figure in there that's going to help turn that whole organization around. Like, Saleh is not that. I think he's a great defensive mind, and maybe you give him a head coaching job. I think he needs the right pieces in place. The same way you could argue in this, I'm brought up Jared Goff again, but Jared Goff, I don't think Jared Goff's a quarterback that if you give him a bunch of lesser talent, he's going to do much more with it. But when you give him a lot of talent, he can make that really good. And you can get the best out of Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, because Jared Goff is a very good quarterback, but I just don't think you throw Jared Goff on a bad team and he's going to take them up levels like Josh Allen can. Like, if you put Goff on the Bills, they're not a playoff team. That's like those kind of things. And I think the same thing with coaches. Some coaches can elevate, some coaches can maximize what they have, but they already need good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was looking because I was interested in Matt LaFleur's record and how long he's been coaching. And I'm going through the win-loss records for coaches and this and that. And it was kind of astonishing to me how many coaches were in like the Shane Steichen range of like average to slightly above average as far as record that didn't get a second chance. But these coordinators who are substantially below average, right? Like, we see it once, we see it doesn't go well. They don't have the knack for clock management, this or that, or whatever it may be. Maybe they just can't lead teams at all. We'll see it goes poorly, and then they get these second and third cracks over guys who like were decent head coaches, but maybe didn't get all the way there. Maybe didn't have the success in the playoffs you wanted, or maybe didn't get to the big game like you would want, but are definitely better than a Josh McDaniels or Robert Saleh at coaching. I always feel like there's 3 or 4 coaches over the course of 3 or 4 years that get shafted, that are like one game out of the playoffs, and you never see them again. Or you might see them one other time, but they don't get the chances that these coordinators do. And I would just love to see more jockeying for coordinators to go to different teams to be an OC or a DC. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. There's got to be a reason for it.
A guy like Raheem Morris, I feel like, is never going to get like a head coaching job again, but I don't think he did bad enough of a job to where he should never get like even a look again.
Exactly.
But I think they needed something different there, because I think they just needed a different vibe, and they needed a little bit. I think they need a little more offensive ingenuity, and they weren't getting it at the OC consistently. So maybe you get the head coach that's to be consistent there. But Raheem Morris just feels like a guy who's never going to get a head coaching job. I hope he does. And I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm just saying he's the guy I feel like fits your description perfectly, where
Completely.
team was never terrible, didn't elevate to the way that you were hoping, so you let him go. But then you have Josh McDaniels, who was bad. Like, he was bad multiple times. Like, that's why I'm happy we got Josh McDaniels, because I'd be really shocked if we got another head coach. And I hope he just stays a coordinator for 15 years. He's great as an offensive coordinator. Does really good. He's been really good. His track record is proven there. So I hope that he has a long marriage with Drake May in this offense and Mac Vrabel. So
for sure. One guy me and Tim have talked about before we get to our next segment. One guy Tim and I have talked about who I've seen over and over on social media, and even Tim himself has said, like, I wouldn't want this guy as my head coach, but it's like, maybe he's not the best, but you know what you're getting, and you're probably going to be at least better than average.
McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy. He's someone who would make the Falcons immediately a division contender. Like, he's not someone you want necessarily for a championship team, even though he's won a Super Bowl, but he's better than literally 90% of coaches.
He's like, he's high floor, like mid-ish ceiling.
Yeah.
Which is why it's
that's
always
better than 90% of coaches.
Oh, 100%. Don't get me wrong. Like 100%. I completely agree with that. It's why if you need to stabilize your franchise and you're very bad, getting Mike McCarthy in there, not bad, because he can stabilize a franchise. Like, Arizona wouldn't be a terrible spot for him. That's just that's just a franchise to me that just needs to stabilize. Like, he could at least make them every year like, oh, this feels like an 8-win team for talent. He can at least make them an 8 or 9-win team every year for talent, because like they actually play up to their talent. They might not get to the 11 or 12 wins and boost their talent. Like, he might not be that, but he at least gets the floors high.
He's won the big one. I mean, you could even say
he has won the big one.
You could even say he's done better with Rodgers than LaFleur did in LaFleur's years with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, both of them had him for 2 MVPs. I think both of them had him for 3 or 2 championship games. I think Aaron Rodgers been there 4 times, maybe 5. But yeah, so I mean, he had pretty much the same exact success. A little bit more because obviously he won a Super Bowl. But like outside of the Super Bowl, I was saying the same. I'm like a line of success.
LaFleur's had some awful losses, and we can talk about LaFleur more in our next topics. We'll do a little bit of review and preview. All right, you've seen this become more of a trend with us, and I think it's worked pretty well. We've gotten pretty good feedback from it. We're actually going to chop this up as one podcast. We talked a little more on these subjects than we thought we would. And then the next podcast that y'all see, it's going to be a review of Wild Card Weekend as well as a preview of Divisional Round Weekend. And we're going to recycle a game that we played in the preseason that worked very well for us to preview the upcoming regular season. So we'll be right back. Warner Brothers Podcast, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of that, Spotify, Apple Music. Go listen to us. Go stream us. We're out of here.